What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another highly combustible reaction. We're gonna be jumping into the next one on our Netherlands journey. How the Dutch created the Netherlands. Let's jump into it. Let's check it out together. If at any time you decide you like it, go show Geography Geek some love on this channel. We're already subscribed up. You should too. Let's go. Let's see what we got.
The saying goes that God created the earth, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. In this video, I'm going to show you how. Today, in 2021, the Netherlands looks like this, but in 1300, it looked like this.
Yes, because we know that they are former Atlanteans and they have mastered the waves. They have mastered either that or they're just really good warriors who decided to go to war with Poseidon and take back some land.
Today, about half of the Netherlands is reclaimed land. The inhabitants of this land that is today modern-day Netherlands have been reclaiming land since at least the 14th century. Some of it was reclaimed by draining lakes, but most of it was acquired by taking it back from the sea. But it hasn't been easy. It's taken generations of engineers, many failures, and at least 600 years worth of experimentation for the country to finally be winning its war against the sea. The country sits on the
So there
coast of the
actually
North
were
Sea.
failures in the beginning. It wasn't just like, hey, we have this system, let's set it up. So at one point, there was definitely something to be afraid of on whether or not that water was going to come back in, especially before you guys got the whole surge breaker system thing put into
To
place.
finally be winning its war against the sea. The country sits on the coast of the North Sea and is extremely low in elevation, the lowest country in Europe. The Netherlands doesn't even have a single mountain. Its tallest point stands at just over 1,000 feet. The name Netherlands itself literally means lowland in Dutch. Today, 26% of the country sits below sea level, and only about half of the country sits more than 1 meter above sea level. The country also lies along the delta of several major European rivers. Combined, these physical characteristics have made the Netherlands into one of the most flood-prone countries in the world. Some of these floods resulted in tens of thousands of deaths. One
At
flood
one point, everyone just had to own a boat. Like, you just had to have one on standby. It seemed like a boat would be a great emergency thing to have.
1530, known as St. Felix's Flood, killed over 100,000 people. These floods, combined with
Holy
wind,
crap.
caused the Netherlands coastline to change constantly, and at times quite dramatically. St. Felix's Flood washed 18 villages into the sea.
18 whole villages. Keep in mind, people from America, up there, like a village is the same thing as kind of like our cities, only smaller. Like, we're just talking about small cities for the most part.
Leaving one city stranded on an island before that too was eventually abandoned due to flooding in the following years. But the Dutch fought back. They built dikes to protect the land from being lost, and they took it a step further and built what are called polders. Polders are a piece of reclaimed land from the sea or river. They are created by first building dikes around a wetland. Water is then pumped out of the center. Historically, this was done with windmills. Today, this is done with electric pumps. Reeds are then sown. Today, this is done by aircraft. This helps the soil form. After 3 years,
They plant the reeds from an aircraft. That's what he just said, from an airplane.
Today, this is done with electric pumps. Reeds are then sown. Today, this is done by aircraft. This helps the soil form. After 3 years, reeds are burnt and the ash is used as fertilizer for the soil. After a period of up to 15 years, the polder is ready for growing crops, building houses, and constructing roads.
15 years.
These polders are continually maintained to keep from becoming waterlogged from ground and rainwater. Water is pumped out into canals or drained off through side gates. All of this draining causes these polders to sink further below sea level. Much of the Netherlands is covered in peat. When the peat is dehydrated, it exposes the peat to oxygen from the air, which causes it to decompose. From 1200 to 1900 AD, the Dutch reclaimed a total of 1,285,000 acres from lakes and the sea, but lost 1,400,000 acres of land to the Zuiderzee, a shallow bay of the North Sea.
Give a little, you take a little, you lose a little. That would, whoo, my goodness. Talk about frustration back in the day. Yeah.
Over the next 100 years, the battle between the Dutch and the sea continued, but the Dutch would finally come out ahead by the end of the 20th century. But again, this wasn't without more hardship. In January of 1916, a winter storm.
This flooding is literally to the roofs of the houses. You gotta think about how far down below the sea level they really are. Like how terrifying it would be. No, like even just living back in those days, you have to be a real hard person, and you probably wouldn't be able to keep a lot of knickknacks and things like things that were important to you. It would be like, hey, we gotta keep these somewhere else other than the house.
This wasn't without more hardship. In January of 1916, a winter storm broke dikes in several places along the Zuiderzee. At the same time, there was a food shortage due to World War I. This was enough for full public and government support to start what is known as the Zuiderzee Works. This project had three goals. 1. Protect the central Netherlands from the effects of the North Sea. 2. Improve water management by creating a freshwater lake from the former uncontrolled saltwater inlet. And 3. Increase the Dutch food supply by development and cultivation of new agricultural land.
They really had it all under
The first two goals
control.
were accomplished with dikes. Planned polders which sit below sea level would not survive without them. The first dike was built here and completed in 1924. The second and largest here. 10,000 workers created this 32-kilometer long and 90-meter wide dike. It rises to 7.25 meters above sea level with an incline of 25% on each side and was completed in 1932. Fresh river water continued to flow and soon flushed out the salt water, creating the freshwater lake. Today, this freshwater lake functions as a large reservoir, serving as a source for both agriculture.
So today it's not even a brackish water thing. It's completely, the salt water is gone. And now it's just
drinking
off.
water. This
They said
altered
drinking
environment
water.
has had an impact upon the fish and plant ecosystems. The original fishing for herring, anchovies, and flounder has been replaced by freshwater fisheries, chiefly for eels. The change has also been beneficial for Dutch boats, as the freshwater significantly reduces rusting of the hulls.
Very true.
There is also
Your seafaring boats often have a lot more upkeep required to them because of the salt drying on them opposed to the freshwater. Very true. I could see that, even especially on some of your industrial sized ships. Like that's
as the freshwater significantly reduces rusting of the hulls. There is also far less buildup of marine growth, so boats need far less coatings of toxic chemicals to keep the growth off. A third dike was built here, which was intended for a polder that was never built. The first polder of the project was a small prototype and was finished in 1929. 4 more massive polders followed suit, with the last one being completed in 1967. These 2 polders are now home to over 400,000 people and are its own province, called Flevoland, which was officially formed in 1986. Though heavily populated, these polders stick to their original purpose of being mostly used as farmland. These polders have turned this small nation into the second largest food exporter in the world, only sitting behind the United States. Quite impressive for being the 16th densest country in the world and the densest country in Europe. But this modern engineering feat did not end the Netherlands' troubles in the southern Delta region. In 1953, another catastrophic flood hit the country. Strong winds from a storm combined with a high spring tide over the North Sea caused a storm tide. The combination of wind, high tide, and low pressure overwhelmed most sea defenses, breaching dikes and flooding land up to 18.5 feet above.
the man in the boat with a smile on his face is kind of unnerving. Everybody's dragging you around, everything's flooded, you riding around with a smile on your face like you're a kid.
A storm tide. The combination of wind, high tide, and low pressure overwhelmed most sea defenses, breaching dikes and flooding land up to 18.5 feet above mean sea level. The flood caused widespread damage, and 1,836 people in the Netherlands were killed, most of which were in the areas that already relied on sea defenses but had failed. The flood covered 9% of Dutch farmland, an estimated 30,000 animals drowned, and 47,300 buildings were damaged, of which 10,000 were either swept away or had to be taken down from extensive damage. The total damage is estimated to have been the modern-day equivalent of $5.5 billion.
Oh
The
my.
Dutch created a new plan to prevent a flood of this severity from happening again. They called it Delta Works. While the Zuiderzee works was largely for land reclamation, the Delta Plan's purpose was largely defensive. Together, these two works are one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. This project would be a series of dams, dikes, and storm surge barriers located throughout the Delta region. It is designed to withstand a once in 10,000 year storm event. The original purpose was actually for barriers strong enough to withstand a 1 in 125,000 year storm event, but its costs were deemed unrealistic to build and maintain. The most difficult to build and most expensive section of the Delta Works is a 9-kilometer long dam with a man-made island in the middle. It's based on 65 concrete pillars with 62 steel doors, each 42 meters wide.
Whew,
this dam took
that's
more
a
than a
hell of a
decade to
dam.
complete. One of the most impressive
That
parts of
thing
the
is
Delta
cool.
Works is an opening and closing storm surge barrier located on a ship canal in South Holland Province. It has two 210-meter long barrier gates with two 237-meter long steel trusses holding them. When closed, the barrier will protect the entire width of the canal. It is expected to be closed once every 10 years, but due to sea levels rising, closures will likely occur more frequently. The entire Delta Works project took over 40 years to complete, finishing in 1997. Hypothetically, if all of the dikes in the Netherlands failed, it would look like this. This would include the flooding of Netherlands' capital city, Amsterdam, which is home to over 800,000 people, and altogether 1.5 million people in the surrounding urban area. When Amsterdam was founded around the 12th and 13th centuries, it was located in swampy and unstable land around the Amstel River, so structures could not be built without the risk of them sinking. The residents solved this issue by inserting wooden piles into the ground. Canals were then dug between the structures for transportation and water management. Today, these canals are a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So what does the future hold for the Netherlands? Will the Netherlands continue to win its battle against the sea? And will they continue to engineer and create their own landscape? Well, in 2016, the creation process began to construct the Marker Wadden, a group of islands designed to establish nature reserves as a replacement to the never-built polder. However, no human occupation is planned for this polder. In 2011, a Dutch
cool that they're
journalist
gonna build a
jokingly
new
wrote
nature
that the
reserve
Netherlands should build a
to
mountain
make up
so
for
its
one that they
winter
got rid
sports
of.
competitors don't have
Smart.
to train in another country. But that wasn't something to joke about to the Dutch population. They actually considered it. But it was estimated to cost $7 trillion, take 30 years, and the mountain's weight would sink the surrounding area.
Holy
On a more serious
crap,
note,
you were going to
sea
build
levels
your
are
own
expected to rise due
mountain?
to climate change and will eventually be more than what the current dikes in the country were built to handle. To solve this problem, a Dutch scientist has proposed constructing 2 massive dams in the English Channel and the North Sea, though this may not be a realistic solution. To fight climate change, the Dutch are raising the dikes they already have, widening rivers, giving them more room to overflow, and to a lesser extent are building floating houses.
That. I want to live in a floating house. That's the coolest floating houses I've seen. Houseboats. But that's a whole different kind of house. It's like, can you move them around? Do they have an engine? Like a real boat? Obviously, they all got some kind of solar power going on. That's a very, very sustainable living quarter right there.
First, giving them more room to overflow, and to a lesser extent are building floating houses. Hopefully, this will be enough. If you enjoyed this
That was
video,
like a 4-story floating
for
house.
more geography-related videos. Thank you for watching.
Wow. Seriously, a cool look at it. There you have it. How the Dutch created the Netherlands. Very, very cool look at it. We knew some of the information. Obviously, we have done extensive Dutch things. Extensive. We know quite a bit, but we're definitely still learning. That we still got some more knowledge out of that because I wasn't aware. I knew that you guys had the polders, but this explained them a little bit better. This went into detail about how they protect you from surges and things like that. Just more detailed look at it. Definitely go show Geography Geek some love over on his channel. I'm going to leave it down there inside of the description. If you guys enjoyed, hit that like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike button. Check out one of my other videos up here. Subscribe right here if you want to see more content, possibly your content. Until the next one, I'm highly combustible. You guys be happy, healthy, safe. I love you to the moon and back. Peace.